we've bought into that lie that, when it looks nice and shiny, that's when the food is actually good and, like nutritious for you. Of all the produce that farmers are growing, about 40% ends up in the landfills or just wasted or in the compost pits.
40%?
40%.
Wow, and that could actually be nutritious food that could be feeding people.
We need to work more with farmers and teach them, like, let's grow some good food for everybody and make it affordable.
Yeah.
So that more people can be able to access it, so that we break down the barriers, because wellness is for everyone.
Exactly.
It's not just for a chosen few.
Welcome to The Search for Wellness, a podcast dedicated to discovering the path to a healthier, more fulfilling life. Join us on this heartfelt journey as we share inspiring stories, insightful conversations, and practical tips to nurture your mind, body, and spirit. All right, guys. Today I'd like to introduce an amazing woman called Sylvia. Sylvia, please, could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much, Pooja, for having me. So my name is Sylvia Kuria, and I'm an organic farmer and also an entrepreneur. We work under the brand name Sylvia's Basket. And I've been farming for as long as my child has been alive. My firstborn child is 15 years. So we moved out to Limuru, started farming, and yeah, it's been a wonderful journey since then.
Oh, wow. And how long have you been an organic farmer again for?
So 15 years now.
15 years.
Yeah.
And you've been selling your produce. Where do you sell your produce?
So for many years, I just sold to my friends. So basically, I started with a small garden, and I was, like delivering just the extra stuff from the garden to my friends. I did that for a couple of years, and then we opened a shop. I had the shop for 5 years. The last branch we had, it was just downtown in Nairobi, near Mudhangari.
Okay.
And so we had it on Mudhangari Road for some time, and then now this year we decided to expand and access more markets. So right now I'm supplying mainly Greenspoon. So we have an aggregation center in Kikuyu, whereby we aggregate produce from smallholder farmers, organic smallholder farmers all over the country. We grade and make sure that it's in good condition, and then now we send it out to Greenspoon. And we are the largest supplier of organic produce to Greenspoon right now.
I know, because that's where I found you.
Yeah.
And that's where I stumbled upon you. And then I listened to that episode of you and Juju about organic farming.
Yeah, sure.
And as soon as I listened to that episode, I told Juju, I was like, I have to have Sylvia over here.
Yeah.
And I need to talk to her about this stuff, because this is things that a lot of time it goes unnoticed.
Yeah.
People are so unaware of what they're buying, what they're putting into their bodies, whether it's good for them or not. And this is why when I heard you on her podcast and I heard how much insight you have in all of this, I really wanted you here to share some of that insight with all of the followers of The Search for Wellness. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, we're all searching for something.
Sure.
And unless and until we don't have that knowledge, because knowledge is definitely power, we will never know where to even start.
That's true.
So this is a great starting point for a lot of people who are actually thinking about how to go organic or why it's so important to even eat organic fruits and vegetables. So let's go straight into the question, why is it so important to eat organic fruits and vegetables?
Yeah, the thing that's most unfortunate is that, like maybe 100 years ago, like almost everything was organic. Like our food was all grown naturally. But then now, we got this season whereby, they discovered nitrogen. And, they started adding it as a fertilizer to the soil to increase production. Because I guess at some point, maybe the world at that point thought that, the population is really growing and we want to be able to have, more food to feed everyone. But the truth is, we've always had enough food. But, like the industries of the, like the synthetic industries, of course, because they want to make money, then had to come up with inputs, be it fertilizers, pesticides and herbicides. And, because of that, for a long time, our food has not been given a chance to grow organically and just naturally the way it was meant to be. And it's very important for us to really think through about how we grow our food and make sure that we're eating our natural food as much as possible. Because why would you eat food that has been laced with synthetic inputs. And most times, these inputs are not very necessary. We are told they are necessary, but they're not. So I just think that we have to really go back and ensure that we are actually growing food naturally and giving us a chance to actually eat food that is dense in nutrition. Because of course, when food grows on its own, like it has all the nutrients that are available in the soil. But when you have the soils that are depleted right now as they are, you find even if you add, the fertilizer and all, the food still doesn't have that nutrition. So organic is very important, one, because you want to be able to, ensure that you're not taking in synthetic inputs. And you also want to make sure that whenever you're eating nutrient-dense food.
And the other thing a lot of people don't understand is that, looks can be deceiving.
Yeah.
So if I look at a tomato and it's all perfect and round and oh wow, you think, okay, so this must be good for me then.
Yeah.
And then you look at a tomato that's it's organic, it's a bit deformed, it might look like it had been eaten on one side by a little doo-doo or something like that. You're like, no, I can't eat this.
Yeah.
That's the other thing that people don't understand. It goes so unaware, is that they think that looking at that amazing fresh looking tomato, whereas opposed to the organic one, they think that the one that looks amazing is better for them, but then there is no nutrients in there.
Yeah, and that's the thing also about marketing in terms of, like these guys are everywhere, like in terms of the marketing of the synthetic inputs, they also have to market to make sure the food look aesthetically good.
Yeah.
And beautiful. And also, we've bought into that lie that, when it looks nice and shiny, that's when the food is actually good and, like nutritious for you. But aesthetics has, made us really struggle, or rather has made farmers really struggle to grow food. And what happens is you'll find like most farmers right now have got 2 gardens. So they have the garden where they grow their own organic produce, which is wonderful.
For themselves.
And it doesn't look very beautiful because, it's going to maybe have issues with some insects or, like if it's dry, like the food might look a bit withered or not very nice and sparkling. But they also have now the main garden where they normally now grow food for the market. And that one is normally really pumped so that the consumers can get their beautiful vegetables and fruits, which look good and, as you said, are not good for you at all. And it's not to say that we want to market organic as substandard or poor quality produce, but just to say that we really have to rethink how food is grown. I think most of us don't even know how our food is grown, and you don't even think, how long does my food have to travel from the farm to my plate to look in the state that it looks like, until it gets to me. And because of that, we have to contend with a broken food system whereby we are wasting a lot of food because the market wants everything to look very nice and aesthetic. So we are wasting a lot of food, like just on the farm. In fact, I think of all the produce that farmers are growing, about 40% ends up in the landfills or just wasted or in the compost pits.
40%?
40%.
Wow, and that could actually be nutritious food that could be feeding people.
It's most times very good food.
But then why does it end up in the landfills?
Because we can only sell beautiful produce because the market is demanding for that. In fact, even when you talk to just like regular, like farmers who have to sell their produce to middlemen, the middlemen are like, I'm sorry, I would like to pick your produce. I know it's good, but because it doesn't look good, I can't pick it because I won't be able to sell. So, when you think about who is driving the market, it's the consumers.
Yeah, exactly.
So the consumers are driving the market. The consumers want food that looks aesthetically good without having to give a second thought whether the food is actually good for them or not, whether it's nutritious, whether it's healthy. We don't even think about that, by the time this food has gotten here, how much has been wasted in the back end, like on the farms. Because, I wanted it to be so perfect.
Yeah.
That because of my high standards, and making my choice to only buy this perfect food, that I've contributed to 40% of food getting wasted.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
That is really, really crazy. The other thing that also is quite concerning is that, when you say that the length of how long it takes for your food to come from farm to table.
Yeah.
And this is just locally, and we're talking about in Kenya.
Yeah.
Now imagine all the other food that is being imported in to Kenya from the US, from China, from Spain, from South Africa, all of this stuff. I mean, how can that be good for you? How can that still, and that the fact that it's still staying in its perfect shape and form.
I know.
Like you could leave an orange on your table, on your countertop, or a tangerine on your countertop, go away for a vacation, come back, and it's still there, and you could still eat it, and it's still edible. How is that food?
You can't eat it. It's terrible. I know, and we don't really think about that because, like, I really need to encourage us, because when you think about wellness, like overally, you also have to think about, your food traveling, in terms of even the nutrition or how good that food is. If your food can actually last, like as you're saying, a month, like 2-3 weeks, and you're still able to bite into that apple, I just shudder to think how that food has been processed. So you're not even eating fresh food, you're actually eating processed food.
Yeah.
Like I know, at some point, when we're being told about the apples, the way they have layered them with so much wax. And, there's this code, like when you get food that is imported, there's normally a code that shows, the amount of pesticides that has actually been used on the, like the fruits. Just go to the supermarket. I try to encourage us, just go to the supermarket, buy the grapes or the apples, and just scan the code online, like just on Google, just find out what does this code mean. All the food that we're receiving from out is actually laced with pesticides. So basically, even the food that is coming in is normally not very good quality. So we're actually getting one of the worst quality.
We're getting the rejected items.
Exactly, that have got high pesticides, because we don't have good policies that are able to protect us, because the thing about food is that, the inputs are very important. And unfortunately, most of the inputs that are being used in produce is classified as highly hazardous pesticides, especially the pesticides. So that means that there are double standards. So basically, the food that is accepted here and the pesticides and inputs that we're using in Kenya have been banned in Europe and in the US. So which means that if you just buy regular food, chances are that it's been laced with highly hazardous pesticides. But now you see, for us as organic farmers, then, we have to, we have a code and a standard we have to maintain, which means we don't use any synthetic inputs. We don't even give a leeway for some. How sometimes guys are like, you can actually be able to use a bit that's allowed. For us, we just say no. Zero. Because of, we don't have like conducive policies that have made sure that, even if you're using synthetic inputs, they're not classified as highly hazardous. For us, a lot of about 76% of the inputs that we use are classified as highly hazardous. That's another reason why please choose organic. Yeah, because the regular food is actually not very good for us.
And obviously there is nobody here in Kenya who goes around checking how much you're spraying.
No.
We
don't. Yeah. We actually don't have the systems whereby the government is actually able to check, the safety of the food. The only time that the government does it, and we have different bodies, so we have a body called KEFIS, which is the Kenya and Plant Health Inspectorate.
Yeah.
But KEFIS is very keen with food that is exported, because out there in Europe, the standards are very high.
Yeah.
So what happens? KEFIS actually have a desk at the airport to make sure that food that is grown for the outside market is actually checked. But we don't have KEFIS supporting the local market, which is very unfortunate, because why are we making that, the best of our food is the one that is exported? Yeah. And yet we Kenyans are not getting a chance to access safe food, because the government bodies are only bothered about the food that is being exported and not what is being consumed locally.
And obviously the only reason for that is because they're getting more money from exporting our food to the European countries. Like many times when I've traveled and I'm in London or in Spain, and then you see product of Kenya.
Yes.
And it's nothing to feel proud of. I almost feel annoyed, and I'm like, this could be given to us in Kenya to eat, right?
Why don't we get it?
If we have the capability to set these standard,
Yeah,
right? To
yeah.
set the standard of good food
Yeah.
and then send it outside. Then why can't we do the same and keep it in our country? Keep it for us, right? But again, it goes back to the consumer.
Yeah.
Now, if the consumer is going unaware of this, then how are they going to know?
Yeah.
But if they become aware of the fact that, hey,
And
hold on a
demand.
second, and they demand it, then the supply has to be there.
Yeah, and also, the thing about organic is historically, we just did a copy paste from the West, whereby we made it into a niche product. So we've made it expensive and costly. And, for me, I find it so ridiculous that you're actually trying to say that safe organic produce is only for people who have got money and the wealthy and people who can afford it. It's so wrong. I mean, like, this food has to be for every single person. But because of the systems, it's become so difficult for us, because what has happened is when farmers went through training or when farmers convert to organic, they're told that, once you grow your food organically, you're always going to get a premium, which is not too bad, because I mean, you've put in the extra effort, because, it's difficult to come up with, to make compost and build your soil. I mean, it's quite rigorous.
Yeah,
it takes
to turn
time.
your soil back around is also very difficult, right?
It's not easy, and it takes time. So, but even if you say that, I don't think you should make the premium so high until it's like double or 3 times the cost of like regular produce. We need to work more with farmers and teach them, like, let's grow some good food for everybody and make it affordable.
Yeah.
So that more people can be able to access it, so that we break down the barriers, because wellness is for everyone. It's not just for a chosen few. So we need to be able to break down those price barriers, because we are lucky in Africa, or where we are in Kenya, we can grow food all year round. So we don't have like harsh winters whereby you have like 3-4 months where nothing is growing in the garden. So it means you can grow food all year round. And then also, when you think about the inputs and everything, they're actually not very expensive. Like, when I think about what I put like in my farm and what I'm getting out, the inputs are like negligible. Also because I've also grown it for a long time. So we've built really good soil. So like our food is really growing quite well. But at the end of the day, we also need to, be ethical in terms of, we need to talk to farmers, and not to make this organic thing into a business, but to make it into that, why can't we grow good food for everyone? But then, again, as we said, the consumers must demand for it.
Yeah, the consumers have to demand for it.
And ask, like, just ask yourself as a consumer, do I ever ask where my food has come from? Even when you go to your local mama mboga, do you ask her, where did you get these tomatoes from?
Yeah.
Like, who is supplying you the tomatoes? And if she says she doesn't know, you need to challenge her.
Yeah, and if she gives you a look that she doesn't know.
And ask her, just challenge her, because not everyone can access it. But, once you start asking, she will start asking the person who brings her tomatoes, where do they come from? How are they grown? Like, for me, because our home is in Limuru, and we also supply to the local market. I've also tried to make sure that we also supply to local market. And the mama mbogas who are buying from me always love my produce. They're like, even my customers can tell that this produce is different. It's organic. And I sell to them at market prices. I don't make it too expensive, because I also want it to be accessible to more people. So we have to really, like, have a shift to make organic accessible.
No, definitely. But the term organic also gets really misused. That's the other concern is that I have, is that you can go to a mama boga and you can ask her, and she'll just lie to your face. She'll be like, yeah, this is organic. And that term can get misused. Like, I'll give you an example of even my staff. They didn't understand the difference between organic and non-organic. For them, the fact that this tomato looks like it's warped and it's whatever, they were like, this can't be organic. They're like, this one is not the organic one, this one's the organic one. And I've done the tests on them many times. And they still keep doing that. And they still keep going back to those habits of, but Mama, the one you ordered the other week was not nice. So can you just tell Maharaj to get the other one from the market? And I'm like, but that one is not organic.
I know.
And this one is the organic one. And they still don't get it. And so it's like also to try and train them, the belief system, right?
Exactly.
The whole system has been flawed from day one.
It's true. Like, I also spent quite a bit of, like, 50% of my time, I spend it training farmers, to be able to convert into organic and more sustainable farming systems. And I'm working with some farmers in Kajiado, down all the way in Oloitoktok, whereby we get most of our tomatoes. They normally, in fact, I think 40% of all tomatoes consumed in Nairobi and Mombasa come from that small little town. It's called Kimana. Kimana is right next to the mountain Kilimanjaro, very beautiful place. And one thing that I found very interesting is that the farmers there were like, we cannot believe that you're actually producing food without putting any chemicals in the, like in your garden. And I'm like, I don't. And they were like, we have to come and see. So we actually are like arranging to bring the farmers, like down to our farm here in Limuru to actually see how we grow our food. Because they said it's just not possible. This synthetic thing has got into us for so many years. Like in Kenya, I think the synthetic inputs were introduced in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s. So that's as long as some of us have been surviving. And you find that, for the past 45 years, farmers have actually been growing food with synthetic inputs. And that time, it was actually shown that if you use the synthetic inputs, then you're the one who's advanced. You're the one who knows about modern agriculture and modern farming. So like how our grandparents were growing food looked like a cake, and you can't do that. You can't put ash. Seriously, you can't put ash there. And I still put ash in my, like even when we're growing our tomatoes, we had to put some ash.
I put ash.
Yes. But the thing about it, so you can imagine for 45 years in Kenya, farmers have been told for you to be modern, that's how you do modern agriculture, by using synthetic inputs. And now having to change their mindsets, oh my word, it is so difficult. And now we've just started with those farmers, we're now doing kitchen gardens. So they all have, I just told them, first grow your own food.
Yes.
Grow your own organic produce for 1 year. And then slowly start converting your gardens, So if you're doing like 5 acres of tomatoes, start with half an acre of organic, and then as you expand with every new season until you're able to convert, wholly. And it's working, and that's how we've been working with farmers. And also just for us to, make the produce accessible, in that to create markets for them. So like Greenspoon and everyone who buys from us have been a huge blessing, because the more you buy organic, the more you encourage farmers
to make
grow
organic. To grow organic.
Yeah,
exactly.
Because if you don't buy it, if you don't make a conscious decision and say, I'm going to only eat organic and I'm going to buy organic, then farmers will be discouraged. Like right now, we have so much produce and
food wastage,
and people are not buying. So what happens is also the farmers also are forced to sell their organic produce in the regular markets, which means they're not recognized as organic and good for you. They're just mixed up with everything else.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, so the good thing about selling through our platform is that, and with Greenspoon, then it's labeled. Then now you're able to choose and know that you're actually buying like organic produce. But sometimes some of it just gets mixed up in the conventional market.
And it's so important to choose wisely, right? It's really important to be wise about the decisions that you make about what food you're going to be providing for your family, what food you're going to be providing for yourself, what you're going to be putting into your body, but then also into the environment. So that's the other thing, is that a lot of people don't understand the impact this is having and the bioaccumulation, because now those pesticides are reducing the nutrients in that soil, and then you plant again, you need to use more pesticides. It's almost like a vicious cycle, right?
Yeah, and also like some studies were shown that I can't remember, I think it was the vitamin found in the carrots. So basically, if you eat an organic carrot, and when you compare, I think the study was done about 3 or 4 years ago, like I did a post on it, but it was something like, for you to have the nutrition of one organic carrot, you have to eat like about 14 conventional carrots. It's not sustainable. You can't just sit there munching down 14 carrots so that you can get the nutrition of one organic carrot, So in terms of the nutrition, I'm glad that you brought that up. It's very important to know that if you're eating organic, chances are you're going to have it more like nutrient dense. Why? Because, these micronutrients are actually readily available in the soil.
Exactly.
Because, like for us, because we put in so much compost in our soil, so you'll find, like, if you test our soil and you check the micro elements, they are very high. Like in terms of, the vitamins, potassium, the boron, phosphorus, like all those micronutrients are very high in organic soil, which means they're normally available for the plant. And but now in the soil that is more like conventional, you find those microelements they're non-existent at all, and even if you try to put them with fertilizer, the plant is just not able to
absorb it.
Exactly. So you'll just find that you have a carrot, yes, and it looks good and it looks perfect, but because it wasn't grown in the right medium, in like rich soil, it's not able to take up those micronutrients and the microelements. And something else you also brought up, which I wanted to talk about, was also the environment. Like not everyone can farm.
Yes.
And we all can't, and you all think about, okay, how can I contribute positively to my environment? And so because we all can't farm, when you buy organic, you also, promoting sustainability. You're promoting, like biodiversity and ecosystems. You're actually promoting good soil, because the thing about it is when you buy from those farmers, then they are more encouraged to make sure that they're going to,
look after their soil.
Exactly, and work out their environment.
Yeah.
Like today morning, I was just on the farm picking produce to bring down to Greenspoon, and I was with my daughter, and on my farm I've planted lots of flowers everywhere.
Nice.
And we also have our hives.
I need to come and see it.
Please. Please make it a priority to come and see. And we have our hives. And I planted most of the flowers, like I've planted flowers in between my vegetables.
Does that help?
It does.
Yeah.
In fact, you find that I'm able to produce, like if you're growing things that need like flowering, like, like zucchinis, cucumbers, beans, like anything with a flower.
Yeah.
The bees are really pollinating. So I'm actually harvesting more in a very small area, just because I have flowers and bees.
And simple, right?
I know, it's not that difficult. And you see, like now when you buy from us our beans or whatever, you find that, you're actually helping the bees.
Yeah.
And the whole ecosystem on my garden, be so much better.
Yeah.
Because I don't miss out on a market for my produce. And I'm more encouraged to do what I'm doing. And I was just with my daughter today, and it was very interesting because she said, I'm not getting to the garden today because it was awash with so many bees, in the flowers. She was
she's
like
freaking
too many.
out.
I know. But, when you buy organic, you're actually encouraging, to have more sustainable food systems and having a better biodiversity, like because we don't spray any chemicals on our farms. You'll find that we have such so many varieties of birds, say for example, just birds.
How beautiful.
Like we have so many birds, we have a lot of bees, we have so many insects that you would never see anywhere else.
Yeah.
Just because they're safe.
They know that they're safe.
I know.
They're like, this is home.
I know.
This is fun. Like, colorful.
Exactly.
Smells great. Just feels great. Feels good.
Yeah.
What about seasonal? like I always believed, and this is what I believe, is eat in season.
Yeah.
We're also seasonal human beings, right?
Yeah.
So we have to also live our life in our own seasons. So also our food should be given to us and consumed through the seasons, no?
Yeah, and we are spoiled. We don't know seasons.
We don't even know seasons anymore. You're right.
We don't know seasons because, the good thing, as I said, about Kenya is that we can grow food all year round.
Yeah.
But now the thing about it is we are so spoiled. We have no idea what is in season. And so we demand for things like we just wake up in the morning in a hot February day and you're like, I want to eat some broccoli. I'm now like, really, please no, don't eat any broccoli in February. Because it's been so hot.
Yeah.
Because the rains ended in October, November latest. It doesn't really rain in December. No. It doesn't rain in January. So if you're eating a broccoli or cauliflower in February, I'm like, how was it grown? How was it grown for it to look as beautiful as you want it in the hot February season? So we have to go back and learn about our seasons. I'm trying to do that and trying to educate my clients and letting them know what is in season right now.
Yeah.
Like right now we're getting amazing juicy oranges from Shimba Hills in Mombasa.
Okay.
And and next month we're going to be getting pixies.
I love pixies.
From Makueni.
Yeah.
And in Machakos and Yatta. Some of them are ready, but from our farmers specifically, they're not yet ready, and they're going to be ready maybe towards the end of July and early August. Okay. So we always try to let people know about what's in season. In January and February, leafy vegetables are normally not available because it's so hot. And that's when we normally have more tomatoes, more cucumbers, you know. But now because of the climatic changes, we find that sometimes now the seasons are a bit off.
Yeah.
But generally, we are still able to have things in season. So I think one of the things we need to do is also to educate our clients and let them know what's in season. And we try, like we always, like the beginning of, because the year we normally divide it to 3 months, because most of the food that is grown normally takes about 3 months to get ready. So at the beginning of every quarter, we always try to tell our clients, this is what is going to be in season. Please focus on that. We're going to have lots of that. Please make sure you add that to your basket.
Yeah.
And enjoy whatever is going to be available this season.
Nice. This podcast was created to inspire and connect with people. If you are liking the content of this podcast, hit the subscribe button, like, follow, and share this platform. Lots of love. Okay, so Sylvia, say I wanted to grow my own farm at home. Mm-hmm. What are some tips and tricks that I can do to grow a nice organic farm at home?
What I always say is feed yourself first. So, many people normally want to, like going to farming commercially. And I would say commercial farming is not easy and it takes a lot of time, But what I would say is, one, feed yourself first. And how do you do it? Number one, we talked about the season. So you need to know about the seasonal products and just to grow in your garden what is in season at that particular time. Because, how we've also managed to make sure that we have a good produce is that I only buy what is seasonal from the farmers, depending on their ecological zones.
Yeah.
So, say for example, if you're in a semi-arid or dry area, then I would recommend for you to know what is in season when you want to grow your own food and grow it at that time. Because if you grow anything off season, you're going to have a lot of problems with pests. That same example about broccoli, when it's very hot and you're trying to grow green leafy vegetables in the hot glaring sun, the vegetables are going to really struggle because it's too hot for them to actually be able to thrive, which means you have to really water them. You have to make sure they're in a shade. Otherwise, they're going to have a lot of pest infestation, and then now you'll be like, you can never grow organic broccoli. Yeah. But it's just that you grew them in the wrong time. Because the best time to grow like the leafy vegetables is now. When it's June, July, when it's nice and cool, that's when they do very well because they, do well when it's cool. So you have to know the season.
And you have to be patient, right? Because obviously it's not like your broccoli is going to sprout in 24 hours.
No, you have to be very patient. Of course, it's going to take like 3 months before you get your first product. Most crops normally take between 8 weeks, depending. 8 is normally the herbs like the coriander, dhania, and radish. Those ones normally just take about 8 to 10 weeks. But generally, most crops normally take 12 weeks. And then number 2, you also have to build your soil. So you have to get into a habit of making your own compost, And one thing that I just tell everyone, just have 2 dustbins. It's so easy.
It's actually really, my kids are the ones who taught me how to make my compost.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They came home and they're like, Mommy, I need you to throw this in the compost. And I'm like, and they learned it in school. And I'm like, I don't have a compost. And they're like, we don't have a compost. They gave me a look and I was like,
you have to have a compost. It's so easy. Just have 2 bins. I just have 2 dustbins, one with the paper waste and whatever. And the other one is a compost. And, if you don't have, if you live in an apartment, you can just get some worms. Nowadays you have these really nice fancy worm bins where you just put your compost in there and the worms just go through the compost and make some soil. They actually make soil out of the compost.
It's so magical.
I know it is. So build your soil. Make sure that you're able to, don't throw anything out to city council. Make sure that you're able to keep your compost so that you're able to grow your own soil. And then also just, so the foundation is the soil. And number 2 is also just knowing what is in season. And then 3, start small. Just make sure that, just start small. Just tell yourself that all my coriander, dhania is going to come from my garden. Just start that, And then now from there, you can now start growing your own salads. Those are easy. Then from the salads, then you can start growing your own carrots or just whatever you normally use every single day, your leafy vegetables. And then from there, then now you can start learning, because that's how I started off. I decided on, okay, though mine was big. My kitchen garden was half an acre. You know, and at that time, when we moved out to like Limuru, everyone was like, half an acre is too small. But I'm like, it's too big. Because that time we're only 3 of us. And I'm like, growing food for 3 people on half an acre is just too much.
Yeah.
But then now I realized because it was a lot. Why? Because I was growing everything we eat at home. And, you know, like every seasonal. Yeah, because like one day my husband was like, you're not going to the market anymore. All the food is going to be on that half acre. You can grow enough food for us that we can eat there. And that's how I started.
Amazing.
Yeah. And now from there on, now we are growing food on about 15 acres. So we are able to, you know, like to go commercial, but start small.
Start small.
Start small,
you know,
and feed yourself first for 1 year.
Yeah.
1 year, feed yourself. Don't go to the market for
Just
1 year.
feed yourself. It's always been my dream to have my own organic farm. Like always, like I keep telling my husband, like, buy me a farm, buy me a farm. He bought me cows.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. But then I found out I was severely allergic to hay.
Oh, wow.
So then I sent my cows to Kisumu. So my mom looks after them.
Okay.
She has her own cows there and she looks after mine. But I've always wanted my own farm. So he also told me the same thing. Exactly your words. He's like, start small.
Yeah.
Start with your own garden. And which I did. And then I had to kind of fall back. I told you the story about it earlier. And but I think I'm going to get inspired now after talking to you today and maybe start growing my own. And I think everyone should do this. I think it should be a norm. If you can try and grow at least a few things, right? If not everything.
Yeah. Feed yourself first. I mean, like, there's so much market. In fact, it's so funny because some of my clients call me. They're like, oh, I'm not going to be buying from you anymore because of a garden. And I'm like, that's great. Yeah. You know, because Nairobi has got how many people? Like 7 million.
Yeah.
When will I ever get to even feed Nairobians? You know, we have enough in the market. There's enough to go around for everyone. And that's why I feel that if you can grow your own food, please do. Yeah. And just start, you know, like for me, when he just said, you know, like my hubby was like, you're not going to the market anymore. At first I was like, what do I do? Because that time, I remember I only had leek onion. Yeah. So I was like, oh gosh, so how will I cook? He was like, leek is an onion. Yeah. You know? And that's when I learned about so many different kinds of onions. You know, like now people are like, onions are so expensive. And I'm like, have you tried leek onion? Have you tried spring onion? Have you tried garlic chives? Have you tried, you know, which other onion did I want to talk about? The white sweet onions. Yeah. You know, there's so many kinds of onions to take. But we're just stuck on red onions thinking that's the only thing you can grow or like use in your food. And if you actually cook with like garlic chives, like the chives or the leek onion, you'll realize they make the food so yummy and aromatic. Yeah. You'll never even bother with the red onions so much. In fact, the red onions on my list is like number 4. Wow. Kind of onion. I hardly ever use them. Yeah. I mainly cook with leek onions and chives. They normally make the food so flavorful. And spring onions also. Spring onions, yeah. I like the green onions. They're amazing. And they're so easy to grow. I know. I wanted to ask you, tell me something that is so horrifying about the... you know, inorganic farming. I know, like the dirty list, you know, like Europe are normally quite good. They only tell people like, this is the dirty list, don't eat this if it's not organic. Yeah. We also have our own list here in Kenya, and tomatoes are number 1. Tomatoes are number 1, right? Tomatoes, because you know the thing about growing tomatoes is that it's not very easy to grow tomatoes. And because of that, and why, okay, let me tell you, why are tomatoes difficult to grow? Because we have, you know, the original tomatoes are the cherry tomatoes, the wild tomatoes. But because of genetic modification over the years, you want to have your tomato really nice and big and round. And because of that, you know, with things that are modified, they always come with pests and diseases, always. That's why we're really anti-GMO. Yeah. Because once you get the GMO maize, it's going to come with super bugs, 100%. It's already here though, isn't it? Yeah, it's here under trials. But, you know, we went to court as organic farmers. Okay. And at least they have stopped, we've stopped it in that it can't be distributed, you know, for growing. But they're still under trials, you know, here in Kenya. But it's only corn? Only corn at the moment. No. We also have cassava. We also have GMO cassava. GMO cassava. Yes. Why? Why do we need that? They said because of there was a virus that was affecting the cassava. Oh. And they said now they have this GMO cassava that is not affected by viruses, but that cassava is doing so badly in Western Kenya. They did trials in Western Kenya and farmers don't want it. They want to go back to our own indigenous cassava. Imagine cassava of all things.
Wow.
So the thing about GMO is that, or anything that's modified, it always comes with super bugs, super pests, super bugs, super diseases, super everything.
Yeah.
And tomatoes were actually cherry.
Originally.
Wow. Growing wild. But now you want to have nice big tomatoes. So growing tomatoes is very difficult. So you find that some research was done by ISIPE, and they found that farmers are actually spraying tomatoes every 3 days. Every 3 days,
oh my God.
tomatoes are sprayed.
Can you
every
imagine
3
all
days.
that being absorbed into your tomato, and then you're eating that and you're feeding
Raw.
that to your children?
I can't eat raw tomatoes out there in a hotel. Never.
No.
I can never touch a raw tomato
gosh.
is not from our farmers. So tomatoes is number one.
I only buy from you, by the way. I only buy tomatoes from you.
Yes, please do. And also, like, the thing about tomatoes is also that they normally stay in the garden for about 5 months. So you can imagine they're being sprayed every 3 days for 5 months. Yeah. So number 2 is onions. Red onions, the bulb onions. So what has happened is, growing onions are normally affected by thrips. Okay, this is now more scientific. But the pest that normally affects the onions is very devastating.
Yeah.
And can make you lose your whole crop of onions. So onions are highly sprayed. And then also, something that farmers are doing, which is so horrendous, is they're actually spraying herbicides to dry the onions.
Because onions take about 3 months to dry, no?
No, they normally take about, they'll take about a month or so.
Wow.
But who has time to wait for the onion to dry in the garden? Because, for us, like now my onions are drying in the garden.
Yeah.
So I'll let them stay in the garden to dry out for about 4 weeks before I harvest them. Then when I harvest, then I dry them naturally in a special room. Yeah. Where they now dry naturally, and then now you're good to go to the market. So it takes about maybe 5 to 6 weeks. But most of our farmers sometimes are not, they're a bit greedy. Yeah. Sorry. And, they want to dry them quickly. So they're spraying herbicides. Because, the thing about the herbicides, they normally dry the top and leave the bottom. Because, the onion is a bulb. Yeah. So the top leaf is going to dry out. So you spray the herbicide, then, it dries out. And they're also doing it to dry wheat. And we are eating wheat every single day because most homes are having bread or some pastry almost every day. Yeah. So wheat is also a killer. It's terrible, but we're really struggling with the wheat. Tomatoes, we have some farmers. We have farmers who are also doing like organic onions, but wheat is also up there in the list. Potatoes, because potatoes normally have a lot of fungal diseases. Oh, wow. Which are very difficult to manage. So you also find that farmers are spraying potatoes with a lot of fungicides. So things that are sprayed a lot, even melons. We love melons. Kenyans have to have melons at every function. Yeah. But the thing about melons, they are normally affected by a pest called the melon fly that normally pokes the melon and then it rots from the inside. Oh. So if you don't want to lose your whole crop, you have to really highly spray the flowers. Yeah. You spray at the flowering stage. So melons, courgettes, cucumbers, some of those things are very, very high in pesticides. The things that I would say are naturally, or you won't struggle to have them organic, would be things like beetroots, sweet potatoes, mainly our indigenous foods like cassava.
Pineapple, pawpaw.
Pineapple sometimes, yes, but pineapple sometimes also get like some pests. Okay. So sometimes they can be highly sprayed, sometimes, but yeah. Sometimes you can also get
definitely.
Strawberries are difficult to get organic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why we hardly have
any
them
berries,
on listing.
Right?
Not all.
Yeah.
But strawberries, because they're doing it commercially.
Yeah.
Wild berries, it's easier. But most berries can have quite a bit of pesticides because we're doing it commercially now. Wow. Yeah, and some fruits also, like pawpaw, can also have lots of pesticides on them. So you have to be very careful.
You have to be so careful. Oh my God.
I know, but you'll find like our local indigenous foods like sorghum, millet. You're safe. Cassava, sweet potatoes, arrowroots.
Exactly. And you can make flour out of all of these also.
Exactly. You don't have
so
to have maize.
So you don't actually need to have your maize or your wheat.
Yeah, I know.
And the thing is that the main issue we are facing is that the wheat that we even eat today is a dwarf one. Yeah, it's a modified one. It's a GMO one.
It is modified.
And the one that we used to eat back in the days, and the one was again seasonal.
Yes.
It only grew after the rain.
Exactly.
And it grew as tall as that plant behind you. It was even taller. It was even like 6 foot tall.
You're right.
And that was what we were actually designed to digest, and what we're designed. And this is why a lot of people have gluten intolerance now.
But it's all pesticides, by the way.
Yeah, it is.
It's all inputs. Like even with the wheat, it's all input, because they're spraying herbicides before they harvest.
Yeah.
So what you're intolerant to is the pesticides.
It's the pesticides, and like young children are being, like having all these allergies, these reactions.
I know, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and even the dairy industry, right?
Yeah, true. By the way, like dairy is just, oh my word.
Really?
Let's not start on dairy. I don't even know where to start from. Like for me, I've not taken I've not been taking milk for about maybe more than 10 years.
Wow.
But I had a cow, but she died. Anyway, unfortunately, she fell sick. But I was only taking, like the time I was taking milk from my cow, I was 100% okay. Like my tummy had no issues whatsoever. But anytime you just buy milk out there, it's, because the dairy industry it's messy.
It's very dirty.
Yeah.
It's a dirty dairy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but guys, please, let's eat more sorghum and millet. I have amazing organic farmers in Western Kenya.
Yeah.
And they don't know where to sell their sorghum, millet, and cassava. And all those things make amazing flour. You can still be able to enjoy your good food.
I love cassava. Cassava is probably one of my favorite things. I eat it like on a weekly basis.
Yeah, I also love cassava.
Yeah. And this is the thing, is eat what what grows locally, what grows in your own market.
Yeah, true.
Don't try and strive for something that is sitting on a container truck for 6 months and then coming here and then sitting on the shelf for another 2 months and then you're eating it. That's not food. That's exactly what you said in the beginning. It's actually, that is not real food.
Mm-hmm.
What are your hopes for Kenya and for organic farming?
I mean, like, I think
future or now,
like Gen Z has really sparked some hope in us.
Yes,
everybody.
For sure.
And I mean, the Gen Z guys listening to me, please, can we just start asking about where our food is coming from and how it's grown?
Totally.
Like, I wish I just had more young people who are just, making those choices and eating well, but we are really struggling because most of the guys who are buying from us are sick or older, like above 40, even like once we did a little survey. And I think it was only like 10% of our clients were below 35 years. And
wow.
I was like, young people don't know about their food. They need to start. My hope is in the young people. The young people need to just come up with a revolution and actually put our government to task. One, to come up with conducive policies, whereby you actually have health inspectors in markets, with the little machines. Nowadays, I'm actually getting one.
Okay.
Where we can actually be able to check the pesticides.
Yeah.
And these are things that you just buy, like on Amazon. So if I can be able to get it on Amazon, why can't the government be able to actually just get these small pesticide machines to actually randomly check stuff in the market, to make sure that we actually have a conducive policy environment that, is safeguarding our health. Mm-hmm. Because once farmers know their food is tested,
yeah, then
they're going to comply. Like for me, we are lucky because we're working with different organizations that are able to test, the produce on the farms and things of the sort. But generally, that should be for everyone. We have to have a policy environment that actually says that the government can actually go out there and test to make sure that the food is actually safe, for its people. And then number two, we need to start asking, asking how our food is grown and where it's grown. Everyone should start asking their mama mboga, where is your food coming from? Mama mboga should start asking the middlemen, where are you getting the food? My customers are asking for organic. So you need to get that message down to the farmers, We need to encourage our parents because, a good chunk of our parents who are retired are actually farming. We need to challenge our parents and tell them, please, don't spray anything wrong on the, don't spray this highly hazardous pesticide in the food that you're taking out to the market. Like I did that to my parents. So my parents, of course, have just been having organic their whole lives. But, you know, I had to even start telling them to build their soil without having to use a lot of fertilizer. And, you know, at first they were like, oh, it will never work. And now their garden is like organic, you know. They have managed to convert it over the years, where they don't really have to put in any fertilizer, and they're still getting some really good produce from their farms. So for us who have our parents who are farming, your mom is farming.
Yes.
You need to be able to challenge her and make sure that she's not using
So
anything.
luckily, both my parents, they do a really good job at not using any pesticides on their farm.
Yeah.
And they have some amazing produce, and they live in Kisumu, and Kisumu is still really nice, untouched, diverse soil.
I know.
So they grow a lot of stuff.
And really good weather.
And very good weather. Like, whenever I go to Kisumu, I come back with a box full of stuff with moringa.
I know.
With pineapples, with aubergines, with I came back with a massive jackfruit, because I'm trying to use jackfruit as like a replacer for, like, you know, like meat-free kind of items.
It's amazing. Yeah.
So I'm trying to do that. I'm experimenting with a bit of jackfruit and stuff, it's so important. But the thing is that they'll do all of that, but then they'll still go to the farm. I mean, not to farm, to the market. And they'll still go and buy the fruits and veggies from the mama boga. But psychologically, my parents think that what they're buying from the mama boga is organic. No. They won't even ask her. They're like, no, it's from the market, so it's organic. And I'm like, no, it's not. They're like, but the tomatoes are from the market. I'm like, that doesn't mean it's organic.
Yeah, true.
And this is the thing, is then also, if shops, for instance, because a lot of people don't even go to the market anymore to shop. Right? A lot of people, especially what you're talking about, the younger generation, they actually go to Carrefour, they go to Chandarana, they go to the supermarket.
Exactly.
Because nowadays the supermarket has a whole section of fruit and vegetables.
Yeah.
And they go and they buy the fruit and vegetables from there. But there also, they don't question anyone, they don't ask nothing. And yes, once or twice I've seen a very small section called organic in Carrefour.
Carrefour, they have it. Yeah, we work with those farmers.
Yeah.
I know the farmers there.
Which is great, but how many people do you actually see going to that section and going to that aisle and saying, hey, let me pick up this because this is organic.
Exactly.
And it's good for me. And the only reason is because they just think that everything in that area is good for them.
No.
Without going unaware.
Yeah, we have to actually be aware and ask the questions, be aware, ask questions, you know, challenge the system.
Yeah.
You know, and challenge any farmer that you know. And just ask them, how do you grow your food?
How do you grow your food?
How do you grow your food? Why do you have 2 plots? Why do you eat organic with your family but sell us all the stuff that's really bad for us? You know?
True.
Yeah, so... And I think the revolution is actually going to come from us. That's why I spent 50% of my whole existence training farmers on how to grow organic, you know. So that's how we are spending so much of our time, because we realized, you know, we can have all these talks and everything, but if we don't get the revolution from the ground up, from the producers, you know, we are not going to do much. But now we are really pushing farmers to just stop using the highly hazardous pesticides, because we've had the campaigns, they know about it, but just getting them, you know, to move into action.
But it comes back to the consumer again, like you said.
I know.
Yeah, if the consumer demands it, then the farmer will start producing it.
Exactly.
And you know what? I wish there were more and more Sylvias like you all around us to create this awareness, to create this shake, to create this ripple effect. But you know, when you talk about the next generation, I feel like it might not be the Gen Z, but it might be the one after them, which is our children.
I know.
The alphas.
The alpha.
Because like, look at your kids are growing up with that awareness. My kids are growing up with the same awareness. And I feel like they might be the generation who will actually be like asking the whys.
I know.
Why are you doing that? Why?
Let me just tell you a funny story before we end.
Yeah.
My kids first went to camp last year. And I remember my daughter was so horrified because she was like, Mom, please, can you just go to the kitchen of the campsite and supply them with organic produce? And I was like, that's amazing, you know, because she was like, I can't believe I'm going to not, you know, like for 1 week, I'm not going to eat organic produce, you know. It was just her first time to be out there. And I was like, okay, fine then. Her mindset has really been changed to actually start asking questions. You know, before she went for camp, she was like, what am I going to be eating there? It has to be organic. You know, she's like, why don't you just talk to the kitchen so you can be able to be supplying our school even with organic? And we'll get there, you know.
I think you will. I think you will get there. That if more and more parents create that demand. So like my kids, luckily they take home pack lunch.
Yes.
So I don't have to worry about that.
Exactly.
But you know, for the other parents whose kids are being fed school lunches, if they start saying, hey, you know what, why don't you buy stuff from organic farmers?
Yeah.
Then I'm sure they will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. And parents start asking that to the schools. Like, why don't you guys get organic farmers
Yeah.
to supply the kids with some good vegetables?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's just all about bringing that awareness out there and shedding light on the matter.
Yeah.
But honestly, Sylvia, this has been amazing. I have learned so much from you, and I'm so sure, and I'm 100% sure that this is definitely going to create some sort of awareness in many people who listen to this podcast, because there's a lot of people who go unaware of and unnoticed with all this stuff. And this is stuff that is so important for us today, for us to take a stand, for us to create this awareness.
Sure.
So thank you so much for sharing all this information.
Yeah.
And if anybody would like to buy any of amazing things that Sylvia is producing, please reach out to her. I will add all your details in the captions of the episode, and also I will add the link to Greenspoon, so that they can even buy the produces on Greenspoon. That's where I shop 365 days a year.
Yes.
But yeah. So thank you so much.
That's lovely, and thank you very much for having me. And I look forward to just having this podcast, just out there and just getting people to make some good decisions about what they're eating and how we can be able to just create a more sustainable food system.
For sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, my dear.
Thank you.